thank you so much, Danny, for coming on. It's an honour to have you here, mate. I'm a massive fan of your work. I've been for many years. I'm not going to lie. So glad we could do this because you're
Absolute
a very
pleasure.
very busy boy. Yeah, how's it all going?
Good, yeah. I mean, I've thankfully got a day off.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in a musical, Guys and Dolls,
Yeah.
you know, so that's pretty much taken up the majority of the year. Like, we started rehearsals in January, and but at the moment I'm off that. There's another brilliant actor, Owain Arthur, who's taken over the role of Nathan Detroit, and I always had. I'm filming the sequel to Magpie Murders. It's called Moonflower Murders, and it's an amazing Anthony Horowitz murder mystery show which the BBC picked up, you know, and it's become like, you know, very successful. So they were all calling to do a season 2 of that, and I'd had like a gentleman's agreement with Anthony way back when. So I knew that was bubbling away in the background, and then when it came round, I was like, you know, I don't know. I think when you give your word to someone, I know you're not necessarily signing on the dotted line, but
you're loyal.
I had a loyalty to it, and you know, fortunately, the theatre have allowed me to go away and film that in Dublin, and then I'm going to come back in mid-October. Yeah, because I'm a sucker for punishment.
Amazing.
Come back and do 8 shows a week. Yeah, but I love it. It's been an amazing experience. I've never been. I mean, I was in musicals years ago when I was at stage school. But I haven't done it professionally for a very long time.
Let's go back because
let's take it back.
I'm so interested to know, like, you know, your journey and sort of, because you've been in the game for so many years.
So many years.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, where did it all begin? Did it run in the family? Did it, you know, were you sort of? Because for me, as an actor, I was the only one in my family from a working class family. You know, when you say I want to be an actor, they're like.
Exactly the same.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
How many siblings have you got?
I've got 2 younger brothers. Yeah.
Okay, right, yeah. So you're one of 3 boys. I'm one of 4 boys.
Right.
And I'm exactly the same. None of them showed any interest in performing. But I think so. You were the eldest of your 3. Okay, right. So I had 2 older brothers and 1 younger. So I always think, and my 2 older brothers in particular, and my younger brother Ryan, very good sportsmen. When we were growing up, I mean, it was always football, golf, tennis, all that sort of stuff. But particularly my 2 older brothers were exceptionally good footballers, and they'd play for the district and all that sort of stuff. But I was never, I mean, I thought I could play, but I guess it was just something about, you know, attempting to get noticed in a sort of overcrowded household. So performing and doing impressions of people and playing the class clown and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. That sort of... you know, came sort of very naturally to me. And I think it was a question of me wanting to try and do something different. Yeah. And did you have a definitive moment when you were like, I want to try to do this properly, so go to drama classes or whatever, you know what I mean? Always my light bulb moment, it feels weird talking about it now, was my mum took me to see Michael Jackson when I was a kid. I was about... how old was I? Like about 11, 12? Yeah. Around that age. The Bad Tour 1988. Yeah. I was sort of, I mean, in terms of like a live performance, that was just the most astonishing thing I'd ever seen. Yeah. So that was me. I was locked in my bedroom doing Michael Jackson impressions, you know. That was my party piece. Yeah. Every school disco, if Billie Jean came on, everyone knew that Danny would grab his hat and do his routine. And that sort of followed me. That then led me to a local dance group, Stage 1 in Essex. Right. And then it was there, Caroline Hurst, who was an amazing dance teacher there, she suggested stage school. So I auditioned for Sylvia Young's and all the places, and I ended up going to Italia Conti. Oh, did you? Yeah. So I was a stage school kid. Because there's 2 Italia Contis, isn't there, I believe now? There was our one was always the main one was yes, there is 2. There were 2. There was the one at Goswell Road. Yeah. Which is the one I went to near the Barbican. And that's the more musical theatre. That's all musical theatre. But there's solely an acting branch of it as well, which was, I think it's still down in Clapham. Yeah. And but at the time it was musical theatre. I remember auditioning there, and I got in and I was too petrified to go. Oh, really? Yeah, because it was that whole thing of, you know, leaving your normal secondary school. And that was good. I was going to say that because I had some mates who went to Sylvia Young's, and it is a school, isn't it? It's like you change. You don't go to school as well.
You go.
Yeah, you do. You go in and you do.
But I mean, in the same place. You don't go to your secondary school and then go to Italia Conti as well. It's like it's all.
No, I mean Conti's Goswell Road was essentially a block of flats.
Wow.
So you'd come in and on the first floor was all the classrooms.
Yeah.
And then you go further up and there was studios and then art studio and the agency was right at the top.
Right.
So I have amazing memories of it. You know, I mean, like I said, I didn't go in the second year because I was just too petrified to, you know, make that leap. And then it was like an itch. I couldn't stop scratching. Then I auditioned again and got in. And then like we said, look, if you're going to do it, go for it. Yeah. But it was a big, you know, change for me. I was there in my blue Italia Conti uniform, jumping on the Central Line all the way up. My mum used to drop me at the station. I used to go up from Buckerstill all the way up to the Barbican, commute there and back, you know, so at the age of from 13. Wow. So yeah, I always knew I was destined to do it. But it was a great experience. You know, it sort of, I have great memories, great people, great teachers. And of course it was predominantly musical theatre, but then the biggest influence on me there was an improvisation teacher called Dennis Noonan. Right. As soon as I then got into sort of improvisation classes, that's when I really sort of stumbled upon something which I really connected with. Yeah. And, you know, Dennis was instrumental in just getting me in the space and freeing me up and stripping away all those inhibitions. I mean, you know, amazing teachers are such a lifeline, aren't they? Of course, and Dennis was just, to this day, a dear friend of mine. And oh, that's amazing. You know, he came to see Guys and Dolls recently. It's quite emotional seeing him again. Yeah. I've not seen him for a while. But I have been blessed, you know, throughout all of that schooling, all of that period. My art teacher there, Jane Brown-Todd, amazing influence. Mm. And then when I eventually went on to RADA, I had some brilliant acting teachers as well. Yeah. So I had a hell of a lot of training. Yeah. I did 3 years in the junior school, 3 years in the students there. And then by the time Conti's was coming to an end, I only knew I wanted to act. I was getting into, you know, De Niro and independent American movies. And I mean, I was bunking off baddie classes to go and watch Pulp Fiction at Leicester Square. I'll never forget, I bunked off with my mate Alex, and we used to just, you know, that's all we wanted to do. And then I auditioned for RADA because, like, Dennis said to me, if you really want to, it was all about having longevity and sustainability and a long career. And he said, you know, if you're really serious about it, maybe try for drama school. And so what age was that then for RADA? That's after school, isn't it? Yeah, I was about 19. I think there was 3 of us which were the youngest in our year. I think 19. And that's what, 3 years? 3 years? 3 years. 3 years. Wow. Which was, you know, polar opposites in a way to. I mean, you did acting classes at Conti's, but when you got to RADA, it was all about, you know. Conti's essentially was tits and teeth. It's like the outside in. Do you know what I mean? It was all about performance. Yeah. Whereas RADA was like Stanislavski. It was like about emotional memory, building a character, working on your voice and movement. And it was just, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was sort of, it took a while for me to find my feet there because it was so different to what I'd known before. Yeah. And there's so many techniques out there. Yeah. And I'm sure, I didn't go to RADA, but I know a few people who did. There's a few different techniques that you're learning. So they throw everything at you. Yeah. Did you pick up on one specific technique? Or is something that you sort of use now subconsciously? It's weird, isn't it? Because like, I always joke, like, you know, like you do animal projects at drama school. I always remember being a peacock in Russell Square one summer with all the work people sitting around eating their sandwiches, and Ilan was like, okay, Danny, do your peacock, get in the middle. And I had to be this, I mean, I was like, you're kidding, I've got to do it now. Oh, wow. So I was this peacock, and all these office workers were going, I wish I could do that. No. But I always joke, like, I've never to this day been on a film or TV set and gone, oh, look, Dave's doing his bear. Leave him. Like, give him 5 minutes. You know? I don't know. I mean, I think you always just take what works for you. Yeah. I mean, all the Stanislavski stuff was incredible. You know, and I think the more you worked on it, it just becomes ingrained in you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I suppose you do subconsciously have your own method, and you know, we'll talk about this a bit more in a minute, but like, you know, we've got a mutual friend, Stephen Graham, and
common.
Him, yeah.
When you work with him, like, or other actors, I suppose you have to like adapt to and figure out. Every actor's different, right? Like, so what I mean?
Yeah, I think you have to have a sort of sixth sense of how the actor in front of you is what their process is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've been with actors where you can tell that they're. I think as an actor, if it's an emotional scene or if it's a pivotal moment in the script that on that particular day, you've got to perform that scene, and you. I always think if it's something particularly emotional, you just keep it on a low light. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you gradually. I wouldn't want to do any of my prep that interferes with another actor's process. Yeah. You just keep it on a low light and deliver on the day. Yeah. But I often listen to music and all that sort of stuff. That's a big in for me sometimes. And you'll see me on a set somewhere just listening.
Headphones.
Yeah, all that. Yeah.
I love that though, because music it's escapism, isn't it?
Yes.
And it can enhance emotions. It can bring so much out of you if you're listening to like something really sad.
Yeah, I mean, emotional recall was a massive light bulb for me. I remember my acting teacher at RADA was a brilliant lady called Dee Cannon, and that thing of drawing upon like stuff that upsets you, that has moved you in your own life, and use that for whatever character you're playing is always a great mechanism, and I've often used that.
So in terms of like obviously Guys and Dolls and other stage stuff as well, compared to TV and film acting, some actors, they struggle to go from one to the other, you know what I mean? It's like you do see that if you see an actor who's predominantly worked on stage come in and work in TV, they find it like a bit of a shock in terms of like bringing it down, you know what I mean?
I'm always amazed when actors say they haven't kind of done stage, because to me they're not that far apart. I mean, to me, stage and screen and their acting is acting, and it's about the constructing a character and thing. But I always think in terms of it's just a great workout for an actor to do stage, because you're asked to sustain a character over the course of an evening. And you are the editor, as we all know, like your performance in a film and TV is always shaped by how it's cut and what the editor thinks is right for the scene. So, and on stage, that's not the case. You're the kind of, you've got the reins. And I always think it's, but you're right, something like Guys and Dolls, it is about how performative it is and how big. I'm one of those actors that, I'm never afraid to go big with something. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like the English Nick Cage or something, but it's like, I think you can always be, as long as something is truthful.
Yes.
If it's grounded in truth and it's grounded in the research and all the work that you've done pre-production, then, if it's believable, you can always, a great actor is an actor that risks. That's what my teacher said to me. Yeah. And it's about, not shying away from parts that you think you're unable to play. Yeah.
And in terms of like roles that you've played, what's been something that you've just like, you wish you could do that again, or you know what I mean? It's like in terms of like something that's been really, what's the word I'm looking for? Just it's stuck with you for a long time and you've gone, that was just like an incredible experience, or,
I think I'm always one of these people that I always wipe the slate clean with every character. So I don't think you can ever rest on the performance that you've just played. You can't rest on your laurels. And, like people say to me, oh, Danny, you work so much, have a bit of time off, say no. My agent says that to me a lot. But I'm a great believer in, investing in whatever projects kind of in front, within reason. Yeah. But, a case in point is Boiling Point. It started out as a short film. It became this amazing feature, and here you are, about to release the TV show. So you never really know. It's all about how creative the people are in that process, whether or not you think you can give something to it, whether you can play the role. And I always see the benefit in something,
Yeah. And what's been one of your like sort of favourite
roles
to play? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't really. Yeah. It's like asking me which one of my kids I love.
Well, go on. Which one? I'm joking. I'm joking.
I mean, there's been so many
Yeah.
highlights, you know. I think it's always those roles that you can't imagine yourself playing, or, you know, you look at it and it's like this huge mountain you've got to scale. One of which was Peter Wildblood in a TV single, Against the Law.
Right.
That was a true story of him being gay in the 50s, and he was arrested and imprisoned, because obviously it was illegal back then. That was something that the BBC came to me, Fergus O'Brien. We made another show about the IRA bombing in Warrington, Mother's Day. I mean, he was a great director to work with, but, you know, it was such a left field choice, because you'd have probably gone to an Andrew Scott or a Ben Whishaw or someone like that, and I was like, this isn't the type of role that I play, but that's exactly the reason why you should commit to it.
Yeah.
And I often find those sort of things, the ones that scare you are the ones that you kind of look back on and think, I'm so pleased I took the challenge on and was able to pull it off.
Yeah. What sort of, like, you know, actors getting into this industry now, what kind of advice would you give them? Because I know it's very different, this world now, because, you know, anyone can just say I'm an actor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what advice would you give people coming into the industry?
I think it's a bit like that, isn't it? Because of, you know,
especially with all the content.
Yeah, everyone's just, you know, doom scrolling on Instagram, and there's no right or wrong answer, but the bottom line is, you got to put the work in.
Yeah.
I mean, my advice to a young actor now is to get out there and go and, you know, watch films, go to the theatre.
Yeah.
Kind of immerse yourself in the world in which you want to make a career in, you know, because it's not glamorous. I think the thing is with social media and all that stuff now, it's like you say, content is so free to hand.
Yeah.
And you know, people are just looking at the trailers of movies and things like that and think, I want to do that, but you don't appreciate all the work that's gone into that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got an ITV drama coming out, The Long Shadow.
Yeah, with Lewis.
With Lewis Arnold.
Yeah.
And we had
looks amazing.
The press screening for that on 2 days ago, and the thing about it, and we did the big Q&A, and that's taken 4 years to come to fruition. And you're like, I was suddenly sitting there, and I was sitting next to George Kay, the writer, and I thought, you know, that's an amazing. It's never lost on me.
Yeah.
The amount of work that goes into these projects.
Yeah.
So as an actor, you don't want to turn up. You know, you're like the last piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So that's why, you know, it's your job to serve the writing and to not rock the boat and to deliver. You know.
Yeah.
To leave your ego at the door.
Yeah.
And because a lot of the time it's taken years to come to fruition, and it's you know, it's a long, winding process.
Yeah. What is your sort of process for, you know, getting into role, or you know, when you get sent something, I imagine you get offered lots of things without auditioning. What is the thing that you go, I must do this? I know you talked about before about being scared and you know, challenging yourself.
Yeah. It's just always a combination of everything, isn't it? Mostly the script. Mostly it's like, have I played this role before?
Yeah.
Is it? Sometimes you get a part that plays to your strengths, and you think, you know,
you can see why they've.
Yeah, and you think, okay, and there's nothing wrong in taking that part, because it's like, you know, I'm often, when I read a script, it's about the fact that I have a thing of like, you can instantaneously visualize yourself doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you leap forward and you think, I can totally imagine that plays to my strengths, I can do it. Or it's a role that you go, shit, there's no way I can ever attempt that, and you take it on. And it's a combination, but it's always about the writing, but it's mostly like, well, who are the other actors?
Yeah.
Are they a nightmare to work with?
Yeah.
Are they egoless? Are they, you know,
yeah.
Who's producing it? Who's, you know, and it's a lot of the pattern of my career has been, you know, building up relationships throughout the years with people like, you know, directors like Lewis.
Yeah. Because you worked with Lewis on Des, right?
On Des, yeah.
Which was incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing piece of work.
That was a great experience.
Yeah.
And I think The Long Shadow is going to be equally as as powerful because he's got a great humanity, Lewis, as a director, and I think what sets him apart is that there is no, particularly in The Long Shadow, having watched all the episodes, his gift is that each of the characters are so fully formed and realised, but not just the lead actors, but even the day players that come in.
Yeah, because I remember I was shooting in Shipley when you guys were there.
Right. Yeah.
I was shooting another thing while you, and we were all staying in the same place, me and Lewis and the producers and stuff. And I couldn't believe it for one that he was doing 7 episodes himself. That is
huge,
mental.
Huge undertaking.
Huge undertaking.
Have you not done all the episodes of Boiling Point?
No, I did. I've done 2. It's 4 episodes.
Right.
I did the first 2.
Right. Okay.
But I'm sort of like the showrunner, but it's not. I haven't got the title of showrunner because it's BBC. It's an American thing in it, But yeah, so I've been across it all. But
showrunner.
I know, yeah. Showrunner from Liverpool. But Lewis is, I couldn't believe it, you know what I mean? But also the cast, it's such a big ensemble.
Yeah, it's
hundreds of actors in it.
Yeah, and I think it's that, it came to me and then, it's not a huge role. I'm only really in the first 2 eps.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's great to kick it off, and I was paired with Catherine Kelly, who plays my wife in it, and I've always been a long admirer of her stuff. We were actually at RADA together. She was in The Year Below, so I knew her a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It reminded me a bit of. I mean, I was lucky enough to be in Red Riding years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that was utterly unique because it was 3 different directors and crews and everything essentially about the same subject, but the expanse of that story was much bigger, but I mean The Long Shadow is solely about the hunt for Peter Sutcliffe, predominantly about all the victims and their extended families. That's the sort of cut and thrust of it. That's at the forefront of the drama, but it reminded me of Red Riding because it was about the power of the ensemble. And I think when you watch The Long Shadow, you've got to watch it in its entirety. You've got to watch all 7 episodes to appreciate all of the other performances that have come before. Yeah. And, there are no small parts. I mean, it's great that you can... I mean, I proved that on Line of Duty. I was only in 1 episode of Line of Duty. I mean, that part's followed me around forever.
One of my next questions.
If someone comes up, they go, "Excuse me, mate," I just go, "Line of Duty."
Literally, that was
Line of Duty.
Just have it on your head.
Yeah. I mean, people love that gig. It was such a huge hit,
show.
But it's a great example to young actors. If your agent's turning around and go, "But it's only 1 episode, darling," but hold on a minute.
Was it only 1 episode?
It was 1 episode, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
When I got the scripts and he gets shot at the end, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, and I remember going into the audition and saying, the first thing I said was like, does he survive? And they went, no, Danny, we're terribly sorry. This is the gimmick. We're going to kill off the lead. Because he always used to do that, didn't he? Threw Jessica Raine out the window and all that sort of stuff. But he took it to a whole new level. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of bittersweet, Line of Duty, to me, because it was an amazing experience. Yeah. On paper, probably the best role I've played to date, without question, because you got the interrogation scene, and he was just such an amazing conundrum, that character. But it was such a good character. I mean, there's part of me that was forever gutted that I didn't get any more screen time. I probably contradicted what I said before, but nevertheless, if something is well written enough and there was good people around it, you can really make your mark. And that was one of those performances that definitely did it, Yeah,
and that is the one thing that follows you around in the streets, people.
Yeah, it's either that or Ronnie Biggs or...
Yes, of course,
Yeah, or white lines. I've been in Dublin recently, and everyone loves white lines out in Dublin.
I was surprised that...
rephrase that.
Yeah. The Netflix series. I watched that show, it was great. I'm surprised it didn't get a second season.
Yeah, well, we were all surprised, actually. I don't know. I mean, I think Netflix are a bit cloak and dagger, aren't they? They don't necessarily... I don't think they ever release their ratings or anything like that. No. And it's all about algorithms. I mean, you could argue with White Lines that the whole thing was wrapped up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You found out, who killed the DJ and all the loose ends were tied up. I mean, I think we were all just gutted because,
you were out in Spain.
People say, what's the most enjoyable part you played? And I was like, without question,
Yeah.
Marcus in White Lions. And it had nothing to do with the fact that we shot it in Madrid and Mallorca and there was a infinity pool on the bar upstairs or anything like that. Yeah, it was a riot. It was a great. It was wild. It was a wild shoot. You know, it was wild off camera as it was on it actually. And I guess some jobs are like that. You know? You had to just embrace it. Yeah.
With obviously you play a lot of serious roles and a mixture of stuff like that. But let's talk about Code 404.
Yeah,
I've seen like the bloopers and Stephen sent me videos of on set. It just looks like, I mean, how do you get a day done? Because it looks like it's just a constant riot.
Yeah, like it was a lot. It was a hysterical shoot. There'll be no more of it. I think it's done and dusted now.
3 seasons, right?
Yeah, we got 3 seasons out of it, and I think that's probably right because you don't want to outstay your welcome, and it's just angry Stephen shouting at my character, and but we had such a laugh, and it was just something that came to me initially to attach myself to it, and then I mean, I worked with Steve years ago on another comedy. I mean, we've never done a drama together. So it's been comedies, which is slightly odd because we're known for the serious stuff. Predominantly. And then we did Top Buzzer for MTV.
My God,
which
was
of course. Written by Ed Allen and Johnny Vaughan.
Yeah.
And it had James Lance and Ashley Walters was in it. It was such a huge... I mean, that was the first time I met Steve, and we just got on like a house on fire. Yeah. And then they sent me Code 404 years later, and I said, who you got, for the other copper? And they said, no one. And I just thought of Steve straight away.
Yeah.
And sent it to Steve and Hannah. And I think the thing is, he'd done so much. He was looking to do something completely different.
Yeah.
And Hannah said, you've got to do it. So we ended up shooting a pilot.
Yeah, I remember him telling me about that. Yeah.
And then we... Sky hit the green button, and we did 3 brilliantly enjoyable seasons. And but it was sometimes it was a struggle. To keep a straight face with him.
It's brilliant. Honestly, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And with your obviously, like with you saying earlier about your family and none of them being in the industry. Yeah. With your family now, your wife was in the industry. Would you are any of your kids interested in being in the industry, or would you ever not push them, that's the wrong word, but if they showed any interest?
Well, my son was in Matilda when he was a lot younger.
Oh, right.
But that kind of, I think, had the reverse effect.
Right.
But I think he's probably still toying with that idea. He's a very good actor, Milo. Yeah. Because a lot of the time I think, it's not rocket science acting. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you see like young kids deliver incredible performances.
It's because they're listening and...
Yeah, I mean,
what it is, isn't it?
I don't know if you've got kids, but when they're small, they love doing all that role play stuff, don't they? Yeah. I was watching this interview with Daniel Day-Lewis the other day, and that came on, and it was about, he says, like, you get to a certain age and you put away childish things. I think, and he said actors, they don't do that. They just carry on playing. Yeah. Because that's all, that's not, like I say, it's not rocket science. It is essentially about going in a space with, 2 people and conjuring up a situation and just listening and responding to what's in front of you. Yeah. And kids are great at that, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, my daughter Dixie, she's all constantly going around making up little characters and things like that. But I mean, I always say to my kids or any young actors, or anyone thinking about wanting to do it, it has got to come from you. It can't be. Yeah. I mean, we talked about social media and things like that. It has to be an innate passion in you that you can't. You can't put that fire out. It's a burning, because you have to have that fire to get on in this game, because it's as there are a million one things that can sort of knock you off your perch, and you've got to remain steadfast and focused, but hold on to that passion.
There's a few actors that have sort of come to me in the past. I've done some workshops and stuff like that up in Manchester, and it's so like older you know, actors come to me and they're like, right, I've quit my job, I've done everything, I'm now going to be an actor. I presume I was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, God, that sounds terrifying.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like, it's not, you know, it's not guaranteed. You're not going to just walk into it.
Yeah.
Keep your job, but have it ticking over as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to. I mean, you know, everyone I think probably looks at me and goes, you know, he doesn't stop working. But I've had to deal with my fair share of rejection. Every actor does, you know, and particularly those roles that you think, God, you know, you've prepared for the audition, you've learnt the sides, you've gone in, you've met the people, and you've smashed it, and you don't get the gig. It's sort of, you know, it can be soul destroying.
Yeah.
But it's about, as my old man says, you know, you've got to put your armour plating on and dust yourself down and go again. You know, I think you become, you know, rejection and disappointment is part and parcel of the game.
Yeah, you get more rejections.
Yeah, of course you do. It's not glamorous, is it?
No,
you know,
no.
And it's about taking those knocks and using those knockbacks to say, no, you know, I'll go on and come back and get another gig and all that sort of stuff. But
it's a funny one, isn't it? Because, like, I mean, I've had loads as an actor as well. It's like you put so much effort into. You say you're lucky enough to get a script a week before, which is quite rare these days.
Yeah.
And you put everything into it, and you research it, and you literally stop everything to focus on this.
Yeah.
And then you go in and you do your best, and you think you've got you've done your best, and you come out, and then you don't hear anything for a week.
Yeah.
And then it just like, it's like torture, isn't it?
I mean, but often, you know, the longer you stay in the industry and the more success you get and the more of a name you make for yourself, the reality is it kind of gets harder because, you know, you all want to be on those lists, you know.
Yeah.
Or your agent says the infamous, you're in the mix.
Yeah.
Which is, you know.
Yeah.
Part and parcel of it. But those other people on the list are, you know, Stephen Graham, Michael Sheen, Ben, you know, these heavyweight actors.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It is, and it's the same like what you said there. As you get, you know, more successful, not successful, but you're in this industry more and more recognised. You're in competition with those players.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like I always say to actors as well, and you know, people in the industry, you forget that when you walk into a room with a casting director, they've had to go through the same process to get their job.
Yeah.
Like casting directors don't just, some of them do, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's the same process, isn't it? But like casting directors have got agents. They've got to interview for the job. Same with producers.
Yeah.
So when you come on set as an actor, you know, all those people have had to go through the same process as you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
but it is all about building those relationships.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
An actor and casting director relationship is kind of key. You know,
yeah.
Nina Gold was a massive champion. I mean, when I started out, because I did 2 Mike Leigh films sort of back to back.
Yeah.
That was a big turning point in my career, and then, but you know, like producers and direct, you know, it's about, I think, you know, turn up. You're not late, you're kind, you're courteous, you deliver the lines, you don't bump into the furniture. I mean, I'm simplifying it. But do you know what I mean? If you want to build up a reputation of being, you know, hopefully talented and reliable and easy to get on with and a good collaborator. And I think, you know, it's about just keeping your hand in and staying in the game.
Yeah. Because, I mean, ultimately you're going, you know, you work with someone, say you work on a show for 2-3 months. Yeah, it's a family, isn't it? And you've all got to get on. And one sort of bad egg or bad seed in that mix can change everything.
I always think you have to leave your ego at the door.
Totally,
you know.
Totally
and then
agree,
The Long Shadow is an absolute case in point. You must have had it on Boiling Point as well. You know, you can't, because here's the thing: you've got like, I mean, what you know, you're shooting 6 pages a day or something like that, and it's like you've got to get those pages shot on that day, because if you fall behind schedule, you know, financially that's a complete nightmare, and you've got to get the day done, you know. Everyone needs to be pulling in the same direction to achieve that goal. And if you've got someone that's like, I'm sorry, why am I not number one on the call sheet?
Oh
Or
God!
I can't wear these shoes.
Yeah.
Where are my UGG boots? Or I'm
Where's their
I don't
trainer
have
bigger than
UGG boots, by the way.
Let me tell you. Yeah.
But like I said, shows take 3-4 years to come to the fore. So it's about you don't want to sort of arsey actor turning up at the last minute, rocking the boat, being all starry. I think those sort of people very quickly get found out.
Yeah. And so, in terms of like you obviously went to the Italia Conti RADA musical theatre stuff, then the acting stuff, and then you went off and did a load of amazing TV and films. Yeah. And I want to talk about 1917 as well, because I'm interested to know that process as well. Yeah. But also Guys and Dolls. Now you're doing a musical. Is that the first time you were back doing a musical since being in?
Yeah, I had it in my locker, obviously, from Conti's days.
I was going to say, how was it, like, dusting them off?
It was... I've never felt so middle-aged in the rehearsals. I know that. There was all these 20-something astounding sort of dancers, and I tried to join in the physical warm-up. And then it took all of 2 weeks, and all the middle-aged actors were just gently rolling around in the corner of the rehearsal room while they're doing split leaps and God knows what. But I mean, look, Guys and Dolls was about the role of Nathan Detroit, because it's kind of like iconic. Yeah. I mean, it was just a left field offer out the blue. I was on a holiday in Ibiza with Lou and the kids, and then I got an email from my agency saying, you've been offered Nathan Detroit with Nick Heitner at the Bridge Theatre. And I was like, what? I remember I walked down and Lou was at the swimming pool, and I went, check this out, I've been offered this. And Lou was like, you're doing it.
Wow. Yeah.
She always said, you've got to do a musical, because she's. I mean, I'm always prattling around on sets anyway and dancing and doing that. And but it was a great example of attempting to try and do something, polar opposite to what people associate you with. Yeah, yeah. So I've had that the whole time the show opened. God, I didn't know you could do that, but that's what it's all about. Yeah. But it was. I mean, I said I'm going back. I can't wait to go back, because there's one thing about, I keep going on about live theatre. It's like the closest feeling I get to when I played sport. Yeah. I mean, Guys and Dolls is utterly exhausting. I mean, as soon as you go out on Nathan Detroit, he doesn't stop talking. Yeah. He's like got that street smart patter, and like I'm drenched in sweat at the end of it all. But you kind of come off and you're like, you can take on the world. It's utterly exhilarating. But then you've got to do it again the next night.
What is it, 8 shows a week?
8 shows a week,
Wow, God.
So, 2 on a Thursday and 2 on a Saturday.
See, that's one of the things. I'd never done theatre like I spoke before. Because it did scare me, and I think it scared me too. Because I didn't train as an actor. I just fell into it when I was younger, when I was like 15. So I think I've always had that in the back of my mind going, I couldn't do that, because everyone on that stage has been trained to within an inch of their lives, you know what I mean? So,
but I think that resilience of doing 8 shows a week, that gargantuan effort that you need to do that, it kind of gets easier as you do it, because your endurance improves, and it's so in your body. Yeah. That muscle memory thing is just an incredible thing to me. Yeah. Because it's like, I don't know what it is, and people go, that classic thing of when you do a play, people go, how do you remember all the lines? You go, because that light cue tripped something in my brain, blah, blah. And it's like, there was an amazing moment on stage. I tried a couple of times doing Guys and Dolls, but there was a moment when Andrew Richardson, who plays Sky Masterson, he probably won't like me saying this, but he puts up a wad of money and I grab it, and that was and he just forgotten his prop. And he went like that, and there was nothing in his hand, and it completely, my brain went, why is that not there? And it made me screw the following line up, and I was in the wrong place. So all those things of me picking this glass triggers what you have to say, and it's
what do you do in that situation? Because obviously the audience, unless the audience have been to see the show a million times and they know it inside out.
Yeah, I totally dried on stage with Andrew. Really? On one matinee, and it just gone.
Really?
it just went, and I said to him, "What's my line?" In front of everyone. Just said, "What's my line?" And he went, well, "I don't know, cheesecake."
Wow.
I went, "Oh yeah, cheesecake," and then we carried on.
But I bet the audience loved that though.
They obviously knew that I'd gone wrong, but for you, it feels like an eternity. That moment.
Yeah.
And you just want the ground to swallow you up, but they kind of love all that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, well, it's like because it just makes it, part of the. It's a unique experience for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think a lot of the time is when you dry like that, you're not actually concentrating as much as you should.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
I did a play at the National called The Red Lion, which was a football play. It was a 3-hander. Calvin Denver and Peter White, fantastic play written by Patrick Marber about non-league football, and I remember I dried in that because I always say to the stage manager, "Is there anyone of note in the audience?" And she said, for some reason I just, there's a few faces in the audience, it's quite nice,
Yeah.
And she told me at the interval, she said, "There's someone in," and I went, "Who is it?" And she went, "It's Danny Boyle." And I was like, "Oh wow, Danny Boyle, fantastic." Anyway, and I started the second act on my own, on a mobile phone. And it was like, "Mac, it's Jim." That was the line.
Yeah.
And I'm have to come on in a overcoat and a trilby hat, and it's been raining, so I'm drenched.
Yeah.
And I come on the thing like that, and I'm like in the wings, and I'm like, they pour the water on me, and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Danny Boyle." Do a good second act like that. Do you know what I mean? I came out of that, and I got the mobile phone out, and I went, gone. Completely forgot. And I went, you've dried. You've dried. It will come to you, and it didn't.
It didn't.
And then you go, "What do I do now?" And then you go, "Oh my God, Danny Boyle."
He's looking at me.
And I always remember looking in the wings, and they're all going,
"Oh no,
what are you doing?" And I was like, "Do I stop? Do I start? Do I go off? Do we do it?" I mean, you know what to do.
What did you do?
I remember the intonation of the line.
Right.
I just couldn't remember the word, Mac.
Oh my
that
God.
one word, Mac, triggers my brain to say the remaining part of the second act. So I just went, So I knew the tune of the line, but not the actual line itself.
Oh my God.
And there was like, and somehow we managed to, carry on. And, if something goes wrong on stage, as you say, just cancel and continue.
Yeah.
Just let it go within reason.
Oh man. I remember I went to see Wizard of Oz recently.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen when we were there, but apparently there was a massive technical thing on the stage, and they had to just stop everything. And then what's his name came on, the comedian came on and did a full stand up.
Oh, it was
who?
Jason Manford.
Jason Manford,
yes.
He came on in the lion
Funny
suit
man,
and did a full on
good
comedy sketch thing for everyone.
Yeah, we had some show stops on Guys and Dolls because the whole thing is immersive.
Yes,
Essentially, it's on 15 different platforms.
Right.
So the audience are part of the action, and they get ushered around by New York cops, and so it's a whole thing, shifts and moves and everything else, which I think is the thing that set this particular production apart from past ones. But the whole thing is on hydraulics.
Yeah, I heard
underneath the stage, and there was a couple of times where it just stopped.
Wow.
And then there's a show stop, which is not good for anyone. I hate it because it just shatters the illusion.
Yeah.
But like we said, the audience do secretly love it because they feel part of the action.
And it's a unique one for them. It doesn't happen every show.
Yeah.
I'm so glad because I was dying to go and see it, but I couldn't make it because I was so busy. But I'm so glad that when you came in here, you said you were going back because I wouldn't want to watch it without. Because Steve and Hannah said they went to see it and they told me it was just magical.
It was lovely to have them in the audience because
they said there's a like we said, it's an immersive, but some people don't have to be, right? Is that right?
No, you can if you want to go and get a seat, you can do it the conventional way, and it's essentially all in the round. So you get that same sort of immersive experience.
And everyone dances at the end, and
and then all the you end up dancing with everyone, and then but it was great to have Steve and Hannah there because they were both sitting there with these big beaming smiles at the end, and but we've had some amazing people that came in to see it, because what you realise is that Guys and Dolls is like so many people's favourite ever show.
Yeah.
And it was my birthday. I turned 45 on I was doing the show that night, and Lou and the kids came, and I think my mum and dad were there and things like that, and they'd all had a meal before, and then we were having a drink afterwards, and there was this on the thing, and I turned round and it was Tim Robbins, and I was like,
what?
Oh my God. But I'd worked with Tim years ago
Wow.
on this Spanish movie on an oil rig in Northern Ireland, all very obscure.
Yeah.
But and he was there with Reed Morano, but Tim came back, like it was his favourite musical as a kid, and then he came back with his kids. So he ended up seeing the show like 3 times.
Oh my
but
God.
we've had Jeffrey Rush came, Helena Bonham Carter came like 3 times, and since I've been away and Owen's taken over, they've had like Hugh Jackman came, and Florence Pugh, and all these incredible,
wow,
heavyweight Ray Fiennes came. It's kind of surreal when you've and the press night to Guys and Dolls was probably the best night I've had in a theatre, because it was, God, press nights are so nerve-wracking. Yeah. And particularly that one, you sort of. In actual fact, the thing about it was we were told that all of the press had already come in the previews. So in actual fact, but it's still a press night.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people, God, I've worked in the game for so long now, that was actually when the lights came up and there was the audience, there was all these incredible, collaborators that I'd worked with in the past, like Leslie Manville and David Morrison. I invited Eddie Marsan that night as well. So Eddie and Janine, his wife, came. So that was because I'd been working with Eddie on something out in Paris, and I'd not worked with Eddie for a long time. So he was buzzing about me doing Nathan Detroit, and it was actually quite emotional.
I was going to say, yeah.
Because they all had such a good night.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you're going back in October.
Did a lot of name dropping there, didn't I?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So you're going back in October, and then that's for a few months.
Yeah.
Or to whenever, and then is the show going to continue on? Would it just be one of those like a Lion King?
I think so. I don't quite know how long it will run for. I think it possibly will continue because it's been such a hit, and it's obviously making. The thing is that the Bridge Theatre were in the financial red from COVID. Right. That's the bottom line, and like a lot of theatrical spaces. Everything took a hit. I think that's the reason why the show's been such a hit as well, because it's a real celebration of unity and people together and everything else. And then, but they, Nick was rolled the dice, so to speak, and got the rights for a big classic American musical, and that was Guys and Dolls. And in a way, it was like the last roll of the dice. If it hadn't, I don't know if we hadn't pulled it off, I don't quite know what would have happened to the theatre itself. So it's a real, to be part of something like that is incredibly gratifying, and to get to work. I mean, Nick Heitner is such a world famous director, in theatre, and to get to work with Nick was such a joy. And he just knows what he's doing, man. He knows how to put on those big shows, and he's second to none at it. So it's great to get an opportunity to work with him. Yeah,
and then so I said I want to talk about 1917 purely because I'm interested in that process. Yeah, and the sort of, I know it wasn't one take, but it was certainly longer takes. Yeah. Did the sort of rehearsal process for that, and how long were the takes, and how many times did you do it, and all that kind of stuff?
I'm the king of Steadicam shots in war movies.
Right.
So I've done 1917, but before that I was in Atonement.
Yes, of course.
Directed by Joe Wright, which has the famous Steadicam shot on Red Car Beach. Yeah. When they're in with the Dunkirk sequence. So 1917 was a walk in the park. No, it was the 1917 scenes was a lot kind of wasn't as long as the Atonement shot, but just focusing on 1917, it was the same sort of element of very long takes and a huge amount of pressure on you as an actor to not screw up.
It's like theatre, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's very much like that, and particularly that opening, because I start the whole thing off. Yeah. It's literally just my legs giving him a kick, going, "Get your kit and come with me." Yeah. And then I just loved that opening sequence because the two boys get up, and they were amazing to work with. I'd done the caretaker at the Old Vic with George.
Right.
And he's tremendous. But, you know, they obviously start and walk, and they do a walk and talk, and it's like they built a First World War trench system.
Yeah.
On Salisbury Plain, and it was just like, it just sort of blew my mind, the level of craftsmanship that had gone into it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was really like the nooks and crannies of it. It was really tight, and I
felt like you were there.
So I had to start that sequence off, and then they do the walk and talk, and you can see them sort of descending into hell.
Yeah.
You know, and it was all like there, and I had to run round and get in the, you know, you got to get in position.
Yeah.
And make sure, right. But that sort of, when it comes around the corner like that, I remember a couple of times the Steadicam operator he clipped the wall and then he collapsed at one point. So it was like meticulous in terms of its planning. And, you know, it was about, and I never forget this, and I'd never worked with Sam Mendes before. And I do the walk, and then we do like a walk and talk, and I take them to Colin Firth in the in the dugout. And we have some dialogue, and I'm walking like this, and I'd never met Sam, and then like the day, you know, they'd offered me the thing, and all these other great actors were doing it. I said, yeah, of course. I mean, it's Sam Mendes and everything, and the script was amazing, and we were then doing the bit, and I kept throwing, like, the cameras behind me, as are the two boys, and then we like doing the early takes, and I kept kept turning and like looking like that. So. And we did like a couple of takes, and he went, Danny, can I give you a note? And I was like, well, he said, what's all this? He said, you're just trying to get your face on camera, aren't you? And he went, I know what you're doing. And he says, you're not going to do it? And I said, no. He said, no, because, you know, he's a sergeant major, and he was absolutely right, because the bottom line was like, that character wouldn't be looking around at him like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He was steadfast. He knew what he had to do. He was sort of war-torn and weary.
Yeah.
And the payoff is then when you get to the dugout.
Yeah.
I remember him saying, and then you turn and everyone goes, oh, look, it's Daddy Mate. So he knows what he's doing.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So he was astounding, actually, the level of sort of microscopic sort of detail in the notes that he would give, particularly to the two boys.
Because he's theatre background as well.
Oh yeah. He's done it all. So we actually watched. We put on American Beauty 2 nights back because Milo had never seen it, and me, Lou, and Milo sat down and watched that film. Oh my God! I mean, what a piece of work that is. That's great when you got kids and they get to a certain age.
Right.
And you got. You know, we're going to watch The Usual Suspects. I think it's obviously fascinated by the whole Kevin Spacey thing. But we're going to watch Usual Suspects next. But American Beauty is just an amazing piece of work. Yeah, I'd forgotten how incredible Annette Bening's performance is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, suburbia horror, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, the sort of meltdown and sort of existential crisis that all of those characters are in. I mean, it's such a phenomenal piece of work. It's great when you go back and you revisit classic films that you haven't seen in like decades.
What is it? Over 20 years?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I mean, we also watch like, you know, if you go back and you watch Schindler's List. Yeah. I think now I'm like a father and I've got kids. You get to that sequence where the mothers are being taken away from their kids and they're loaded into the concentration camp trains. That is just, that sequence horrific. To me, like, for some, you know, because I'm a parent now, it absolutely broke me on a much deeper level when I watched it before. It's always good to go back and watch those classics. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? They'll be saying the same about Boiling Point, you know they will.
What is there a role or a character that you haven't played yet that you would love to explore? I know it's a vague question, that really, but is there anything?
Yeah, I've never had a game plan. I've never, because it can, you know, everything can be up in the air, can't it? But I don't think I can play another policeman. Yeah. I think that's the thing to do at the moment. Don't play another copper. But no, I'm joking. I don't know. For some reason, I think because Guys and Dolls has been such a big hit and been such a rewarding experience to be part of. I don't know whether I think for some reason I think there's a lot in terms of stage work. I think that's possibly where I could really stretch myself as an actor.
Yeah.
I haven't done a Shakespeare, you know, professionally since I left drama school.
Would you like to do one?
Yeah, and that's something that I've keep saying I want to do and then keep putting off. And you know, I'd like to tackle something like that, or a big giant American classic play. Do you know what I mean? I mean, my favourite playwright was Arthur Miller, and although I mean, I remember seeing Mark Strong, who's a good friend of mine, in View from a Bridge, you know, doing something along those lines. But you just don't know, you know. It's all about hunting out those good scripts. And, you know, I've got a great relationship with my agent, Sarah Spear and Grace Clissold. Like, she looks after me from day one, so we've got a great understanding. I think, again, that's about young actors. You've got to have a relationship with your agent where you can just be as open and honest and have honest dialogue and say, look, I you know, you've got to be on the same page. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's another thing as well that like is really interesting to me, because young actors coming in, they see I won't name names, but they see the big agencies and they're like, that's where I've got to go. But in actual fact, if you do go there, you might get lost. Find someone who, you know, you get on with and you know have got your back, you've got their back, and it's a relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has to be.
That's always a danger when they sign with the big, you know, independent or things like that, you know. But you know, I mean, any agent worth their salt would be like, you know, they've got to believe in you as an actor and as believe in your talent. They've seen something in you that they think, you know, this kid can be employable, you know. You've got something to offer. And it's about them getting you in the door and championing your work. And, you know, but someone said to me, if you change agents, it's like swapping deck chairs on the Titanic, which I love that thing, because you're always going to get in the same, you're going to get in the same room, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's key. I mean, I've been blessed to work with Sarah and Grace. They've been, you know, they mean a huge deal to me. Yeah,
it's really important, really important. So what's next? What can you talk about? What you said, you touched upon what you're shooting at the minute.
Yeah, we've mentioned. I mean, I've just got to go back to Dublin and then finish Moonflower Murders, then back in the show, and I mean, I've got a lot of stuff coming out, but we can't talk about that for obvious reasons. Of course, that's kind of frustrating.
Long Shadow is out soon.
Long Shadow
it might be out by the time the show is out. So
I think it's
Long Shadow's out now.
End of September, they're saying.
So we probably will be out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I can't recommend it enough. You know, because it is. You know, there'll be a proportion of the population that go, "Why do you want to make a drama about such a person?" It's an important
story, though.
But it's not. I can't emphasize this enough. It's not. It's about the police investigation.
It doesn't glorify him.
It doesn't glorify him or not. He's in it, but there's hardly any screen time. But it's predominantly about the victims and their families. Do you know what I mean? And they came to me. I mean, because the thing about it, there was 13 victims. You're at danger of it becoming a number. Yeah. But when you really investigate each of those lives and what was going on, it becomes very, very interesting. Yeah, yeah. And it was a very difficult thing to film. Yeah, it was a harrowing story. Yeah. Because I'm playing the husband of the second victim, Emily Jackson. Yeah. And they were in such financial difficulties that they come to a point where she starts soliciting, you know. So weirdly, it's sort of Shakespearean, because this husband's allowing his wife to go and do that, you know. So and of course the worst thing ever happens. So, but I adored working with Lewis again, and Catherine Kelly's astonishing in the episode, and then a young actor called Sean Thomas as well, who plays the son. Right. And it was just, you know, there is such a huge responsibility when you play something like that. Yeah. And I actually went and met, it was a bit of research, like the real Neil Jackson. Really? Went out to Leeds. Yeah. And he was incredibly gracious with his time, because it was obviously such a difficult thing for him to talk about. But he was so... I just respected his bravery and his honesty. And I mean, he was obviously a consultant on the drama from the word go, and they set the meeting up. But it was really beneficial actually because you can look at documentaries and you can read books, but there's something about when someone is sitting in front of you and you look into the whites of the eyes that you go, this actually happened. I did exactly the same with Des when I played Peter J. I went out with had lunch with his widow and his son from his second marriage. And, you know, when you get that primary source to draw upon, it really helps the performance.
Yeah, of course, It's amazing. And you worked with Graham Drover, who was the first on Long Shadow.
Graham, yes.
He produced Boiling Point, the TV series.
Oh, did he really?
He's producing now,
Oh, great for him. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, he's a great energy on set. Yeah, he works so brilliantly with Lewis. Yeah, he was great on Des and Long Shadow. He always seems very, he's like the calm in the storm.
Oh, my God.
You know?
I mean, Boiling Point was stressful at times, and he was the one person that was just kept it all.
Oh, well, say hello from me.
I will.
Top guy.
And just one thing that I ask everyone on the podcast, it's obviously called the Going Rogue Club.
Yeah.
I like to ask, what is your rogue choice of film or TV show? So, you know, you tell us about it. Something that means something to you that might be a little bit out there.
But does it have to be a drama?
No. We had one yesterday, which was what? Come Down With Me,
No, I said the thing that we end up sitting down is and watching is Grand Designs.
I love that show.
Grand Designs is an absolute blinder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of it's a brilliant show because it's filmed over such a long period of time, and that's the thing that fascinates me. How we're in a place like, do we move at the moment or do we do the back of the house up? So we might have to get them in just to. But it's you know, you kind of get into their lives,
totally,
don't you? And you go, oh, they've overspent the budget, and they nearly broke up, and all that.
Some of them do break up.
Yeah, they do break up.
Yeah. And then the house is still just like,
you've got this amazing house with a lift and like a view of the thing, but they're now divorced, and you think, oh my God,
he's got no furniture and it's just him on his own.
Just sitting there rocking in the chair. No, that's a bit cruel.
Yeah. A great entertainment though.
Great show, I mean, God, that's been going for years.
Yeah. I think they did the one where they went back. They go back to the houses now.
Right.
And like what you said, it's like not the story you would
but
expect.
Some of those, the end results are just you know, where they take over a windmill or like an old power station, and you're like, man.
Yeah. But it always goes over budget. Always, like.
Everything does, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like, it's not a great message in build your own house.
No.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Honestly, love talking to you.
Great meeting you, Phil. I've really loved it. I've really enjoyed it, mate. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure.